Well, good evening. On behalf of the person that invited you to this, I want to say welcome. Welcome to what we truly believe to be the most prolific regenerative technology of our lifetime. Now, 16 months ago, my husband and I were asked the question, have you been patched yet? And we did not understand what we were being asked, nor did we know that once we gave an overwhelming yes, the entire trajectory of our life and every single person's life that we loved would be changed. So, with that, my prayer is by the end of this, that you're going to get back to the person that invited you and you're going to give an overwhelming yes. Now, this disclaimer is not a normal disclaimer. What I want you to understand is that this technology does not treat or cure chronic diseases or illnesses. What this technology does is it actually activates the body because the human body is designed to heal itself, given the right conditions for the body to function at its optimal level. And as you hear about this technology, you're going to see that the technology actually puts the body in a perfect opportunity to do so. Now, why the X39 stem cell activation technology? By the time we're 30, half of our stem cells go dormant. Okay. Now, by the time we're 60, 90% of them go dormant. And we're going to talk about why that's important. But the fewer stem cells you have, the faster you age and the slower you heal. Okay, now why is this important? Well, when we're children, we fall down and we are able to get right back up. Why? Because we are a walking stem cell, healthy stem cell, right? But this as we age, you see a rapid decline, okay? Joint pain, wrinkles, slower muscle recovery, right? The older that you are. Why? It's because our stem cells are actually going to sleep. They don't die. So, what are stem cells? Let's talk about this. Well, first of all, stem cells are a hot topic, right? For thousands of dollars, you can go and get them injected from somebody else, right? And have them injected in you, okay? Or you can actually go and get them injected from yourself, take them out for thousands of dollars and get them injected into a localized area. They're a hot topic. Why? They're undifferentiated cells. See, they're the master cell, the master building block of your entire body. It is your stem cell's job to naturally repair and naturally renew whatever is broken. So if I were to go into my kitchen and burn my hand on my stove, what do my cells have the ability to do, my master cells, if they are awake? They will travel and they will do what is called triage, which means they will travel wherever they need to go and they will fix in an order of what needs to be fixed inside our body. So let's say I burn my hand. My stem cells have the ability to travel and turn into skin or nerve tissue, whatever is necessary for that hand to heal. So stem cells are incredibly important. From nerve cells to cardiac cells to muscle cells to intestinal cells, it doesn't matter. Whatever is necessary, those stem cells can do the trick as long as they are awake. From anti-inflammation all the way to repairing what is broken, okay, as you're going to see some testimonies, all the way to fighting viruses, okay? Your stem cells will go to work for you and do what they need to do in order for you to fix. Now, before we bring on testimonies, I do want to cover quickly David Schmidt. David Schmidt is the founder, the CEO of the X39. He has over 200 patents. Okay. Now, he was actually originally contracted by the government to do defense weaponry. Okay. Now, he did such an incredible job. He was an incredible, brilliant inventor. So they came to him, the Navy SEALs came to him with a different issue. Currently, the Navy SEALs were actually hooked 20 years ago on amphetamines. And so they came to him and they said, look, David, we know that you're an incredible, brilliant inventor, but we need you to help us with something else. Our Navy SEALs are hooked on amphetamines, and we need something that will keep them awake for 24 to 36 hours straight, ready for combat. So he went to work. David Schmidt said, all right, that's not a problem. I'm an inventor. Well, they gave him one more thing. It was something that had to not go into their body. So nothing could be ingested by them. So what David Schmidt did was he began to look around the body. And he found that the body actually has chemical reactions in response to light. So he started looking at these other scientists, inventors, and what he found is that these different chemical reactions were actually due to different colors of light frequency. So as this began to happen, he started looking deeper and deeper, and he found that actually all living cells emit light called biophotons. And then he began to look at the body of a human, and he found that we actually emit between 1 to 2 centimeters off of our body a specific prism of light, different colors. He found a specific red light off of those colors that when reflected back in the body would elevate adrenaline. And here you go. The first ever photobiomodulation technology by David Schmidt over 20 years ago. The body would wake up energy. Okay, so Stanford University got wind of this after the Navy SEALs started using it, and they started looking at it, realized it wasn't putting anything inside the bodies of the athletes. So they were able to put it on their athletes. Michael Phelps got wind of it, and the rest is history. So the technology was incredibly brilliant. But David Schmidt wasn't happy just stopping there. He began to look at that prism of light, those different colors and frequencies, and he used what is called an FTIR to look at those different frequencies and find that whenever reflected back in the body, what chemical reactions would occur from glutathione to melatonin. They were all great, but he was after one thing: stem cells. After 10 years and $4.5 million, he found it. A specific frequency of light that when reflected back in the body would actually elevate what is called a GHKCU peptide. And in response, stem cells wake up. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the patented technology, the X39. Now, this technology is incredibly brilliant. Why? Because it is the first wearable phototherapy apparatus that wakes up stem cells through the elevation of a GHKCU peptide. Now, that GHKCU peptide, people were even synthetically trying to put it inside the body. Why? Because it's known as the holy grail of healing. But instead of trying to inject something in your body, maybe accepting it, maybe not, the body automatically elevates that GHKCU peptide, and stem cells wake up and begin to fix all the issues going on in the body. So it's a proprietary form of phototherapy. When we go out in the sun and the sun shines on our body produces vitamin D. That's a chemical reaction, right? Melanin, right? Well, in response to this light frequency of reflection of this technology, the body elevates the GHKCU peptide. So it's non-dermal, non-transferable, does not get in the way of any medications. So perfect example, I had what is called Hashimoto's. Now, with Hashimoto's, I was always exhausted. So I started using this technology. About 46 days into it, something was weird. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor took my blood work, and he called me 3 days later, and he said, Brittany, you've got to stop doubling up your medication. Well, I wasn't. See, usually more is better with me, but I wasn't. In fact, at all. And so I told him, I said, I'm not. And he said, that's scientifically impossible. That means that your T3 and T4, what was causing the issues with my Hashimoto's, had leveled themselves. So I was taking off the medications, but it didn't get in the way of them. My body just fixed itself. Now, within the first few days, 4,000 genes begin to reset. That means that they go back. 20% of your genes within the first few days go back before they were damaged and reset. Okay. And then within 6 weeks, the brain becomes balanced. So PTSD, anxiety, depression, memory loss. My grandmother was diagnosed with memory loss last January, and it took me a couple months, 4 months, to talk my family into patching her. But when she began to use this technology, guys, it was incredibly brilliant. She began to remember my children's names, their birthdays, what they like to do, what they don't like to do, and if I called her back. So absolutely amazing. There's a reason why our Navy SEALs use it, because it balances the brain. It balances the stress levels. Incredibly brilliant. And then within 3 months, the collagen is increased. So yes, less wrinkles, less issues there. But what is so incredible is that collagen is the matrix of your body. So your ability to move, get out of bed, all of that begins to fix itself. And then within 6 months, the cardiovascular age of the heart actually reverses. My father-in-law came in town last year, April 19th, to say hello and goodbye to my children. See, he was diagnosed with a heart condition and also a kidney condition. When he got off that plane, he was in a wheelchair and then also a cane. He'd go back and forth. Why? because his body was not responding anymore. So we had been using this technology for about 3 months, and I knew it was good. I didn't know how good. So we looked at my father-in-law and we said, look, if you're going to stay with us for the next 2.5 weeks, you will patch. And he did. Now, he noticed a little bit more energy, but interestingly enough, after 4.5 months, we received a video of my father-in-law dancing in Spain. That's right. He's no longer in a heart failure. So this is not anti-aging. This is age reversal. This is the newest clinical study that actually shows that if you use this technology longer than 6 months, what ends up happening is that the telomeres actually lengthen at a very healthy lengthening. So your body actually reverses an age by an average of 8.5 years. Guys, this is absolutely, truly the most prolific regenerative technology of our lifetime. Now, this is a topography map of a 77-year-old woman's brain. So it shows what ended up happening with my grandmother from lack of brain coherence and complete inflammation inside the brain to when the triaging happened and the body began to fix itself. Take a look at what happened to the brain. Absolutely brilliant, a complete turnaround. Okay, so the X39 is so incredibly sophisticated, yet very, very simple to explain. This technology right here, about the size of a quarter, reflects a frequency of light back into the body. It's made of amino salts, sugars, and crystals that are grinded down to a specific mirror image made to catch that specific frequency of light, that when the body accepts that light, it elevates a GHKCU peptide, in turn, waking up stem cells, and in turn, we get testimonies. With that, I'd love it, Stacy, if you could unmute yourself and quickly just share with us your testimony of what this technology has done for you.
Good evening, everyone. So I am so excited for you all to hear about this because there's so many different things that have happened with me. It is unbelievable. So on day 5 of patching, and I'm kind of sort of like Brittany, more is better for me. So I had 2 patches of the X39, woke up day 5, no sciatic pain in my back. Then as time progressed, I started to notice that after having 3 cesareans, I had a little bubble wrap around my tummy. I started noticing that my stretch marks were disappearing, and also my little bubble wrap. So all those little adhesions from the surgery was gone. I was so excited. Another thing, our dog was diagnosed in kidney failure, and the doctor said, hey, you know what? You need to bring this dog to another vet. We had spent almost $2,000. And I called Brittany, and I'm crying, y'all, and I'm crying. She says, patch your dog. And so I patched Cooper. On about day 2 or 3, Cooper was running around the house like he was stir crazy. He's still living. Praise the Lamb of God. He is still living. So I know it works. And then I've had, I'm almost 60, and I had my little lines, that I call the road map. My husband also had a road map, heels on top of his forehead. There are now gone. I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I am reversing my age. And so I am turning 20 again. So instead of 57, I am going back in age. So I'm going back, y'all. And you have to try this technology. The only way that you will be able to tell anyone about it is if you try it. Just give it a chance. Just give it a chance. And there's so much more to share, but I will let you all know my hair grows like crazy. My fingernails grow like crazy. So yes, I am a walking testimony. Thank you, Britt.
I love you so much, Stacy. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now we have
Oh
another
no.
testimony, and I'm really excited about this one. This is a newer testimony. Randy, if you could just unmute yourself and share with us what has happened for you with this technology. It's so exciting.
Hey guys, I need some of that hair growth that the Stacy's talking about. Haven't gotten to that stage yet. Um, but I got to say that I'm like one of the I think I'm probably one of the biggest skeptics that I know, and I have for many years. I mean, most of my adult life, I've been I've been battling type 2 diabetes, and I've also been battling hypertension, really bad. My average systolic would be 150, and so most of the doctors that I would go see, they would tell me, because we tried everything, had me on all the meds, and most of the doctors would say, well, it's some people just operate with higher blood pressure. For some people, 150 is normal. I'm like, all right. So I kind of just ran with that. And but I gotta say that I started using the patch, the X39, starting in January of this year. And I'm happy to report that every morning when I check my blood pressure, it's not 150 over 90, but it's usually like 100 on average, 100 over 80, which is crazy because I'd already given up on of having what's considered normal blood pressure. So I'm not talking about 120 over 80. I'm talking about like 100 over 80. And I was freaking out. I would call Emily, my wife, and I would say, "Is this normal?" And because I just wasn't used to having blood pressure that good. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And with my type 2 diabetes, about 2 weeks ago, I had an appointment with my doctor, who took my diabetic medicine and basically half the dosage. So I was taking the max amount of diabetic medicine that you could take. I was taking Jardiance. I was taking 2,000 milligrams per day of metformin, and I was also taking another diabetic medicine called glipizide. And I had just noticed that I was feeling, I felt like I was over medicating. So he cut my diabetic medicine in half. And, there's been many days, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this, but there's been many days where I would forget several days in a row to stop, to take my meds. And my glucose is normal. I can't believe it. After all these years, I just cannot believe that I have normal glucose. So
I love it.
um, it's crazy.
Randy, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. It's just
Thank you. Thank you, Brittany. You're the one that patched me.
it's just the beginning. So, for everybody on everything, every single time, given enough time. Now, this is a football injury, and this is our son. He actually broke his shoulder, his clavicle in football. And 1 week later, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this. 1 week later, what ended up happening to his shoulder? And then this right here, this little boy right here, his name is Hunter. He actually had a mass inside his leg. His mom called me. She said, "Will you pray over him?" And I said, "I will pray, but you will patch." And they actually did cancel the surgery because the mass is now completely gone. So from diabetes medicine, like Randy said, all the way to acne, all the way to animals, like Stacy mentioned, animals don't know placebo. Okay. So it's important for you to understand that this technology works on everybody, on everything, every single time. From the person in the rodeo that's riding the bull to the bull itself, this technology works. So from knee issues to macular degeneration and eyesight issues, to children with special needs, all the way to back issues. The answer is yes for everybody on everything, every single time. And take a look at this. After 1 day, this lady, after hurting for 18 months, miracles. This lady next to us, absolutely incredible. Her name is Emily. She actually had a gallbladder issue. Guys, the gallbladder was going to need to surgically be removed. The wall was 6.2 millimeters. It is now 2.2. They were able to cancel the surgery. So the answer is everything on everybody, every single solitary time. From snoring like my husband, this is a CPAP machine, not my husband's because he don't love me enough to get one, but that shows you what ends up happening, to eyesight issues, to skin issues. It doesn't matter. Everything. Parkinson's, arthritis, it doesn't matter. Psoriasis, to autistic children that are nonverbal. This lady, her son was actually injured when he was 2 years old. He lost the ability to speak. He is now verbal and speaking, and I've spoken to him and it's beautiful. So everything on everybody every single time. Wound healing. Now, if you have a diabetic wound, like I'm sure that Randy understands this, you actually have to heal from the inside out, not the outside in. This technology will make sure that your body activates and your body heals properly. Okay, so anything, everybody. Okay, so for if you get into an accident, all the way to age reversal. It doesn't matter, guys. Sleep improvement to mental clarity from long COVID, it doesn't matter. Okay, restored muscle skeletal conditions. They're now seeing children with cerebral palsy who are now swimming. Okay, does not matter. Now, we do live in Houston, Texas, so I do talk about the X49 quickly because there are many times that we have professional athletes on here. I do want you to know that yes, our athletes love this. The X39 is for everybody on everything. We've already established that. But if you are an athlete or if you are trying to aid in fat loss, this technology coupled with the X49 is absolutely brilliant. An athlete has the ability to last longer in his stamina, but his heart rate actually goes down. So this technology is fantastic. But like Randy said, he was using just the X39 and his levels are completely fine. So I do want you to know that the X39 is the mama bear technology, but the X49 is just if you want that extra boost as an athlete, especially. Now, how you're going to wear the patch. You're going to put it where you need it. So I had a severe whiplash in my right arm. I put it directly on my right arm, exactly where my doctor told me I was going to need surgery. And guess what? After 11 days, I couldn't remember which arm was even damaged. Okay, so put it where you need it. But for patent purposes, what David Schmidt did was he had to find the most two open points. So the back of the neck is the most open point to the brain, and underneath the belly button is the most open point to the gut. You're going to wear it for 12 hours a day. Take it off. You can put it on your dog, like Miss Stacy said, and then throw it away because once it's placed on you, it's activated for 16 to 20 hours. But your heat and your light actually breaks that down. Okay, so you can throw it away after that and then put on a new patch the next day. You want to stay hydrated with electrolytes. Guys, on everybody, on everything, every single time. And hold tight because I am going to answer questions. So if there is a condition that you want to know about, I bet you we could find a testimony. But I want you to lean into this quickly. What to look for. Now, my husband, I mentioned earlier, we were introduced to this 16 months ago. Now, we were actually, full disclosure, looking for a business. Why? My husband was a car dealer and, I was done with the car business, truly. But we had no idea that he was going to stop bleeding internally. We had no idea that we were going to have a child that had broken his clavicle be able to be healed. We were looking for a business. And what were we looking for? First of all, we wanted to know whoever was at the top of that business. We wanted to know had a great name. It mattered to us. And David Schmidt did. The next piece is that we wanted to make sure that there was zero competition in the industry. I'm not knocking anti-aging products, okay? That is what it is. But I wanted to know that whatever we put our hands on, nobody else would have. And this was it. Not only that, but we wanted to ensure that it was going to be a duplicatable business. What you're seeing is duplication. You were put on this Zoom because somebody loves you and they wanted to introduce this to you. These Zooms happen almost every single day. So all of these things very much mattered for us. And the company growth. Rick is a numbers guy. My husband's a numbers guy. He was a car guy, right? And so we looked at this and he looked at us and he said, Brittany, do you realize that this went from a $20 million company to a $600 million company in 4.5 years? This is the fastest growing direct sales company in the world. And this is just the beginning. We knew that this was perfect. It was going to take us out of the red ocean industry into the blue ocean industry. The red ocean industry is car dealers, right? Or insurance agents. We knew that we were going to be the ones that had the hook in the water. You could be the one that has the hook in the water that everybody needs to swim to. It was the right company, the right leadership, the right field leadership, the right system. But I want you to lean into this before we answer questions. The right timing. Have you ever been in something that you say, oh my gosh, I wish I would have? It is now, ladies and gentlemen. I already mentioned that this is the fastest growing company in the world, but this is the future of all household and world technology. LifeWave is incredibly brilliant. From a future patented energy source all the way to a technology that infuses a light frequency inside water, and the water actually being drunk, the body actually activates cells within 15 seconds. They're seeing miracles. That is what you have your hands on. This is Apple before it was Apple, Microsoft before it was Microsoft. You're seeing the home of our actual home office. Absolutely incredibly brilliant. Now, I mentioned earlier, David Schmidt very much mattered to us. Guys, at the end of this year, there's actually going to be a documentary released about him. It wasn't because LifeWave looked for it. It's because this producer actually started using the technology and was so blown away. He sought after David Schmidt because he wanted to hear David Schmidt's story. He was so incredibly impressed that he said, my gosh, the whole world needs to know about this. This is going to impact the world. Guys, the right timing is now. So I mentioned earlier that my husband was a car dealer and we were looking at businesses. We were looking at a Freddy's, we were looking at a 9 rounds, we were looking at franchises, and nothing made sense. The franchise fee, the investment, it just didn't feel right. Then we saw LifeWave. We saw the miracles that other people had experienced, and we knew what we had our hands on. What was incredible was when we leaned into LifeWave, what we found was they did something that was incredibly brilliant. They said, everybody's going to need this technology. Let's create a way that they are going to wear it. But if they choose, they will share it. And that's how we're going to grow, because testimonies are going to be what blows up our company. So they did it. They created the perfect compensation plan. This is called a binary. Now, if you were invited to this call and you say, oh my gosh, I need this technology, you are correct. But when you get back to the person that invited you, if you say, I want a spot right now, what ends up happening is all you do is you get the technology and you get a spot within their business. And anybody that joins after you falls underneath you in volume. So that is one of the brilliant ways that you actually earn in LifeWave. So you can earn from the people above you and below you. It's incredibly brilliant. So from introductory bonuses to binary commissions to matching bonuses, where you can earn all the way from all the different franchises as people begin to share this technology, and incentive trips. It absolutely blew our mind. It was woven together in a beautiful way. Now, I mentioned duplication, and you might have sat there listening to these testimonies and gone, well, what about stroke? What about neuropathy? What about? The answer is yes. On everybody, on everything, every single time, given enough time, period. But we have a one stop. So if somebody gets back to you and says, well, what about this? You can go to this and you can say yes and share a testimony. If they want to see patents, yes. If they want to see the science, yes, it's all there, the one stop. And then you're looking at the power of duplication, right? If you love somebody, you can get them on a Zoom and you can say, you got to look at this. And then they look at it, they begin to dream and know that there's hope for them, and they jump in with you. And then they realize everybody loves four people. And so all of a sudden you begin to see this incredibly brilliant way that LifeWave created for this to be shared. Now, I'm about to answer questions, but I do want you to hear a story that I heard. There was a man and there was water that was actually rising inside of his home. And so he had to get on the top of the roof and he said, God, please save me. And God said, I got you. So a canoe came by and he looked at the man in the canoe and he said, no, thank you. God's got me. As the water went to his waist, a boat came by. And as the boat came by, he looked at the man in the boat and he said, no, thank you. God's got me. He was super faithful. And then the water rose to about right here. He said, God, do you have me? God said, I'll have you. And a helicopter came by. He looked at the man in the helicopter and he said, no, thank you. God's got me. Well, he died. He went to heaven. He looked at God and he said, God, why didn't you save me? And God said, I sent you a canoe, a boat, and a helicopter. What else did you want? See, this is my miracle inbox. And this was one of our recent miracles. And I was actually able to meet this lady in person this week. She's a beautiful woman. She actually had kidney issues, severe kidney issues. Her kidneys were functioning at 50%. She started using this technology about 4 weeks ago. Her kidneys are now at 85%. Guys, this was her helicopter. For my husband who was bleeding internally, it was his helicopter. For me and my thyroid, it was my boat. See, everybody that we know and love, they're praying and hoping for a canoe, a boat, and a helicopter. They just might not know that it exists. This is why you want to jump into this. Now, there are 4 ways to get started. You can become a retail customer, which is fine. You can pay $150 a month for 1 month supply. I don't suggest that, but you can. Or you can become a preferred customer and you can get it for $99 a month, or you can become a brand partner. Now, remember what I said, you can actually get back to the person that invited you and actually get a spot within their business. The core to see if it's right for you is 3 months of the X39. Okay. There's 30 of those little stem cell activation technologies in each of those sleeves. Okay. So that gives you 3 months worth. Or if you say, Brittany, I know so many people that need this. I know 4 people. I need 3 people. Get back to the person, do the advanced, because this actually opens up the full compensation plan. Okay. And then if you say, you know what? I desperately need this and I want to share it with the world. And I've got a lot of people in my family. You can actually do the premium, which is what my husband and I did. And we were able to loan a sleeve to somebody while their technology was coming in, and they were able to give it back once their technology came in. But you get a spot in the binary. That doesn't mean that you have to work and introduce it to people right away. But when you're ready, the business is actually being grown for you. It's Apple before it's Apple, or Microsoft before it was Microsoft. It's incredibly brilliant. So with that, you want to get back to the person that invited you and you want to give an overwhelming yes. God bless.